All right, welcome back to the Minutemen Initiative. Today we are going to be breaking down the new ATF ruling that just came down in regards to stabilizing braces. And
FBI, open up!
what is going on? Why is this all happening?
Because our government sucks.
Well, if you don't know already, now you do. That's kind of counterintuitive, but you're about to, I guess is what I was going to say. Yeah, we've got a big sweeping ATF-led ridiculous ban that just came in. And we're going to break that down today. Today, we've got Ed back on the podcast. How are you doing today?
Besides the brace ban, in quotes, I'm doing all right.
Sweet. Well, thanks for coming on.
We're going to make it through, though.
Yeah, we're gonna get this thing figured out. We got Steven here, of course,
Yep.
as always, holding it down, just making it happen. And yeah, so in a nutshell, we've got a brace ban. People have been talking about it for the last few months. I'd say 4 or 5 months ago is when it kind of got proposed that we might see something like this. So it's been in the works. But I don't think anybody really knew what it would be or how it'd be written. And
No, I think most people were actually pretty optimistic on it. Like there were so many people thinking that it would mean that like SBRs and things like that were no longer going to be like NFA items.
well, and also this isn't the first time this has happened.
Right, and I was going to bring that up. That's the talk of banning these things has gone round and round the corners since 2012. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember trying to be in compliance, and I'd buy them and then sell them because they were going to ban them, and then they didn't, so you'd buy them again. And
Yeah.
you know,
And then you couldn't shoulder them for a little bit.
and you couldn't shoulder them. And it's just
all
then
this
you
random stuff.
could because it didn't actually change the definition of the gun, and yeah, just weird things.
Yeah. Yep. So, unfortunately, they finally did come up with something that I'm sure they think is well thought out. It is not at all.
No.
We're going to get into that and break it down. I think it's really important to understand, obviously for legal reasons, but even further on that, I guess I would say mentality reasons, because there's a lot of questions here, like, and we'll get into it, but you know, at what point do we draw a line and decide that no, like, you know, this is already, I mean, you look at how the Constitution was written, and specifically the Second Amendment was written, and all these regulations that we have today are, in my opinion, already complete infringements on that right.
Yeah.
The right to keep and bear arms. And so, you know, and I think our community as a whole does try to do the right thing, and which I think is you know, good for the most part, as far as people just trying to be overall good, you know, trying to be law-abiding citizens. But at some point you do have to question, like, you know, when is enough? And you know, but also, I mean, we're talking about some pretty serious implications here if they do, you know, pursue people or choose to make examples of people, which they absolutely will, I believe.
Yeah.
Ultimately, as you'll hear, I think a lot of this is unenforceable. Like, I mean, physically unenforceable. Not that they wouldn't want to, but they just don't have the resources to do so.
Can't search every home in America.
Yeah. So we'll get more into that and kind of break that down. But we're going to get straight into the ban. So the name of the ban technically is, and it's not even really a ban. I would say it's a ruling, which in turn bans things. So it's a ban. But it is called Factoring Criteria for Firearms with Attached Stabilizing Braces. And it is published to the ATF's website. So I'll have that link in the description if you want to go read it for yourself, which I'd recommend doing, and have fun because it's 293 pages long. So it's quite the document, but definitely it's part of just taking personal responsibility and understanding what's going on. I definitely encourage everyone to take the time to read through it. I have not gotten all the way through it myself, so I'm going to continue to read through it. I went to the parts that were pertinent to having a basic understanding of all this so we could share that with you guys, with our audience. But there is a lot in there that is worth reading. Excuse me. So basically what's been done as we kind of start to work through this, they've basically decided to completely redefine what a rifle is in a nutshell. And we'll kind of talk about that. And there was things that were originally supposed to be included in there, like they had a firearm classification point system, which was super random, dude.
Yeah,
like,
that's crazy.
It was like, if you got this kind of accessory, then you get this many points, and
like a certain amount of points equals a rifle or something,
or in any other weapon, or a short-barreled rifle,
okay,
or
I gotcha.
a pistol.
Well, they have things similar to that, like other states, Rhode Island for some reasons coming to mind, where you can only have this many, like if you have a flash hider, you can only have a pistol grip, or whatever else. You can only have a certain number of things in this category. So
super dumb, and obviously very, very, very arbitrary and open to interpretation.
Reminds me of like a video game, dude.
Yeah,
dude, modern warfare.
Yeah, just you have a limited amount of points. Choose your accessory wisely, dude. So stupid. That's like Insurgency Sandstorm, where you get like your class is like 12 points, and you have to cherry pick what you want to use. So none of that's happening, thankfully. So the ATF didn't.
At least not for
not
free
yet.
states, I guess. Or
yeah,
free.
I should say at the federal level, it's not happening. But that's about the only good news in this entire thing, because, like I said, they have redefined what a rifle is, and we'll kind of start to break that down. We can talk about each of these, but the main thing they're kind of using to specifically attack or regulate the braces would be surface area. Even though that phrase, surface area, is not actually defined at all in
That's
ATF vernacular.
Yep.
Yeah, which leaves it all up to enforcement interpretation,
right?
Which is really dangerous.
Is the back of a buffer tube itself considered surface area? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's flat.
Is the back of the receiver considered surface area? I mean, like, it's surface
use
area.
A mil-spec buffer,
commercial
buffer.
Yeah,
you're good with your commercial buffer. Your mil-spec buffers,
it's a little more pointy in the
I don't
back.
know. Isn't the commercial one actually bigger?
Well, yeah, but it's like
angled. It's slanted.
Remember, it's got the
it's still surface area.
It cuts your shoulder, so you can use it.
Oh yeah,
you can use it if it hurts you. If it physically causes you pain. Yeah, so that's that's a big problem, and this is very typical of anything that's been passed ever by the ATF. It's always very arbitrary and vague, and includes new wording and vernacular that's never been defined, which any kind of case law or rulings in general need to have clear defined language, and more so not just like dictionary defined, but within
that policy or procedure.
Yep. So this is a big problem, and definitely if you're listening to this with a serious intention of like, I want to build a good perspective, and I want to be able to inform my representatives, which we'll talk. We'll end with that, because that needs to happen. This just needs to be an automatic thing. But I encourage you to take notes and go beyond this podcast. We'll try to break it down as good as we can, but build a good, well-written, and well-articulated opinion on this. It is going to take time, but that's just part of what we need to do. I think it's part of our responsibility as responsible gun owners. And furthermore on that, I mean, this whole kind of Minuteman mission, I think, is very, very, fundamentally, it should be about prevention, like trying to prevent things from getting so bad that if we physically have to fight, I mean,
Yeah, because I mean, our founding fathers were definitely politically involved. So it's
absolutely.
like, even all the way down to like, I mean, they were politically involved in just the fact that they came from,
Right. They left their space.
They came from Europe to here, and it's like they obviously didn't like what was going on politically, and that's why they came here. So,
yeah.
I think it's kind of foolish for people to just put their head in the sand and be like, I'm just going to break the rules and just not, just I'll have it. But I mean, there's a place for that, but I'm just saying, like, for someone to just be like, you know what, I'm just going to throw a stock on it, but not actually put in the work to like talk to my representatives is kind of, I feel like, lazy.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and that kind of getting, I think we'll get into this deeper later on, but kind of to tag along with what you're saying, Stephen, I think there's two options here really, and both of them, without being proactive and involved with like this political process, is unfortunately kind of a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out to just comply and just go along with it. I think that's a dangerous cop-out. And I also think it's a more ignorant or maybe more apathetic cop-out to just simply say, I'm not going to comply, and just kind of go about your life. Those are two options that I think we need to discuss and talk about the pros and cons of each, but whichever one you choose to do, both need to include being involved with this process and speaking up, because we're still in a point in our nation where speaking up still does something. I know it feels like it doesn't, but that's just, I think that's a cop-out to just say it doesn't matter, they don't listen. You're right, they don't listen to a few people.
Right.
And I think that's the problem. They don't listen to, well, here's this same, here's Jacob again sending us an email. He sends us one every couple weeks, and anytime something's going on, just send that to the junk folder or whatever, But they will respond if hundreds and thousands of people email and are pissed. So we need to get those numbers up, because...
Well, just as a side note, we got the things going on in our own community, separate from this issue, but Jacob, you've been dealing with them for 9 months now.
Yeah.
Just starting to gain some traction on getting listened to and ask for input. So
100%. And that's something that we'll probably break down in future episodes maybe, but that's completely unrelated to this, but even at the
process is similar.
Yeah, and it's I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a good point. It's been, like you said, almost 9 months, and this is just at the city level. It's not even at the federal level.
Right.
But enough people are involved, enough people are staying involved and staying consistent, and that's just part of it. I think it's irresponsible, and I think it's actually the biggest problem that we see in our community, and in the responsible gun owner community, is the kind of lackadaisical or apathetic response to like, I'll either just do what they tell me to do, or the other side of like, I'm just not going to follow anything and just do whatever I want anyways. Both of those are great, whichever you decide to go to, and again, we'll break those down. But if you're not getting involved, if you're not being proactive in the political side of things when it comes to these laws, then you're part of the problem. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
It's just that's the reality. You look at it's been a part of our nation forever. Like, using our voice, it's a super unique part of our country. Lobbying with your representatives and trying to influence them on why you want things done the way you're explaining for them to be done is really important. So, but yeah, kind of moving forward. Like, long story short, I guess, surface area is a really good point to key in on, because it's super arbitrary. It's not even defined in the ATF wording anywhere. So if you're trying to develop a good statement or a good perspective that you want to then share with your representatives, that's one to key in on for sure. There are other factors too that are specifically listed, and we'll kind of work through those. So the first one is weight, which is really strange, and very, just very, again, arbitrary, but this is how it's wording, or how it's worded, sorry. Whether the weapon has a weight or length consistent with the weight or length of similarly designed rifles. Like, what in the... what in the Doctor Who is going on, dude? That is the most random thing. And that right there, this language is why it's again really important to understand this, because it's not just, I see a lot of people saying, yeah, just take the brace off, like, no, this document has added other factors. That's the scary part, is it's not just the brace. I think the brace is going to be the most clearly enforced side of it, as far as like if they were to enforce anything. I don't even know how they will, but like I think you brought it up, Ed. If you get pulled over or something with a brace, that's an obvious way that you could get busted.
Right. I highly doubt they're going to go door to door all of America to find however many of these are. I've seen quoted 10 to 40 million. I don't know the actual number. But they're just it's not possible for them to do that. But in your normal day of life, if you get pulled over because you're speeding or your headlights out or something, and some law enforcement guy finds this, that's kind of where it's going to open that door.
Yeah. So, but beyond that, obviously you have all these other factors that add to that, which is a problem. So the other one is length of pull. And how it's written is whether the weapon has a length of pull measured from the center of the trigger to the center of the shoulder stock or other rearward accessory. That's fancy little wording right there. Component or attached, including an adjustable or telescoping attachment with the ability to lock into various positions along a buffer tube, receiver extension, or other attachment method that is consistent with similarly designed rifles. So again, that similar rifle wording is very sneaky, but yeah. So basically, anything at all that can get attached to your buffer tube is no longer allowed. Then this one is the one that really surprised me. It actually includes optics of different kinds.
Yep.
Again, super vague. Whether the weapon is equipped with sights or a scope with eye relief that require the weapon to be fired from the shoulder in order to be used as designed. Which this is not actually new. We've seen this before. Do you remember back, I think it was the 2012 one, when we saw the ban taking place with the braces originally, and you could have like a red dot sight on it, but there was some specific wording in there that didn't allow for scopes because of the whole eye relief thing. So this is not necessarily new. It's crazy to me that they can still include it, because you can very easily, like with your own arms, hold it at the right eye relief and use it.
Right.
Like scoped revolver hunting has been a thing for decades.
Right.
And there's a huge community of people that do it here. So it's such a weird thing to put in there, but it's the whole point of all this, at least from what I can see, is not just to regulate short platforms, but it's, I think, to make it very hard to build very purpose-built and more tactical, if I could use that word, more tactical style weapons. It seems very
they're going after the
that.
people running LPVOs on their revolvers.
Yeah.
For deer hunting.
That's what they want.
And then there's another section about surface area in here, and this is where it really starts to answer some questions. Whether the surface area that allows the weapon to be fired from the shoulder is created by a buffer tube, receiver extension, or any other accessory component or other rearward accessory that is necessary for the cycle of operations.
So I guess that answers your question about the buffer tube.
So it does include it, which is crazy. So, but then you start to when you start to question that, it's like, so what are basically any AR now at all that's under 16 inches is just going to be a short barrel rifle no matter what. That's where it starts getting really weird.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have a buffer tube. If you have an AR pattern rifle, you're going to have a buffer tube.
Dude, everybody's going to the MCX now.
Yeah.
The end of the AR platform. Here it is. Military adopted deal.
Dude,
whatever the term.
You're going to be waiting longer for your MCX than you would for your paperwork to come back from the ATF, dude.
Dude, SIG's involved.
Dude, they're just taking over the world by storm here.
All right. So another one is manufacturing, marketing, and intentions, which is like, what? But here's how it's worded. The manufacturer's direct and indirect marketing and promotional materials indicating the intended use of the weapon. which is like, what? That's just so confusing. And then they follow that up with information demonstrating the likely use of the weapon in the general community.
Yep. Well, this
Nice.
is, we talked about it here a little bit before we started the podcast too. Dude, all the YouTubers that were shouldering these braced weapons. This is
set precedence for it.
Yep. That was the start of the downhill thing. Yep.
Crazy.
Yep. Careful what you do on social media and public spaces.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's like it shouldn't matter. Like you should.
No, I
don't
agree.
know.
I agree.
It should be. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to me. So basically, what we've got ourselves into now, with all of this being said, is that in a nutshell, you've got 120 days to comply for any existing firearms that have braces on them, or that fall into those categories. If you have any new firearms, which they just say new, I'm kind of confused by that too.
I am too. I mean, I assume it to be if you're purchasing it after the date of this. So, like, if you were today to go out and buy one that has a brace on it.
Oh, okay.
That's
because they're still in circulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, my assumption. I don't know that it's defined anywhere that I've read so far, but
yeah. So basically, 120 days to comply for existing firearms, and then 60 days to comply for new.
But how do they know?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. A lot of this is just so arbitrary.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's smokescreen. Like it's just kind of like, well, we got to come up with something.
Just throw it out there and see if it sticks, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I think they're just trying to get people to like surrender firearms and stuff.
And destroy them.
Well, they do specifically state that in here.
Yeah, yeah, I've got that listed in here. The $200 tax stamp is actually waived for now. And you want to break that down a little bit about what you were saying about that, because it started on the 13th, I believe, is when this was technically published.
Yeah. So if you read the little introduction they have a few days ago, it wasn't officially archived. I forget how they worded it.
Yeah.
It wasn't officially archived in the records or whatever. So my assumption, kind of reading that, was the introduction. Was you have 120 days starts once it's officially published in the archive or whatever. So that may or may not have started yet. Jacob, you said you thought it started today or yesterday. But
Yeah, I was trying to find it, and I have not been able to find it yet. Yeah, because this is that was just the announcement on the 13th.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure when it actually goes into effect. It might have been actually today, which is the 17th.
Which the big weird thing to me on that is, like, you have 120 days to submit the paperwork, or you have 120 days to like receive it. Because, like, what are you doing with that gun in the meantime?
Yeah, that's where it gets really weird.
Well, so that's the problem too, is the Form 1 and Form 4 wait times are ridiculous as is.
Yeah.
And now you're asking millions, will just be on the conservative side and say millions of people to fill out these forms and flood the handful of agents actually processing forms for NICS. There's no way it's going to get done in 120 days.
No. Definitely not.
So then you're potentially putting yourself out there that you have one.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of gets crazy for me. Like,
it does. I see what you're saying. But on the opposite end of that spectrum too, you are complying.
So maybe there's going to be like almost like a short-term license that you get when you buy a vehicle, like the
temporary registration.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I think maybe they would allow like proof of, like, obviously
you submitted your paperwork.
Yeah, like a submittal receipt or something.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
that's
I don't know how
there's
it's going
too
to
many
work.
like what ifs there.
I was talking.
I don't know.
To,
I wouldn't feel comfortable with just going for that.
I was talking
personally,
to. Yeah. No, I know. I was talking to, and I haven't confirmed this yet, but I was actually talking to one of our other local gun stores here, and they do like engraving and stuff. Yeah, and he was saying now, because of this change, which this could be considered a positive change, that they've waived the requirement to engrave it with your name and city, and that the manufacturer markings on it are going to be sufficient engraving for you to SBR your receiver. Yeah.
Interesting.
Due to this specifically, but that's a sweeping change. And I need to confirm that. So I say that with the, I guess with the disclaimer that I'm not sure, but that comes directly from one of our other Type 7 FFL SOTs here that we're pretty close with, and he does a lot of engraving work. So we were talking about how we were going to manage a lot of that, and he told me that, it actually doesn't sound like I'm going to be doing that much more much anymore.
Interesting. So you're actually changing when you do the Form 1. So for anybody not familiar with the forms, a Form 4 is you're purchasing something that's already manufactured. A Form 1 is you become the manufacturer of the item, whether it be a short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun, or a silencer suppressor. So you actually become the manufacturer.
Right.
And that's why you have to engrave your things on there, whether it be the name of your trust if they are manufacturing it, or as an individual you're manufacturing it. So that's how that whole engraving thing kind of comes about. So that is interesting. I hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah, and and he might have meant that he is going to be engraving it. Maybe, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. Mm-mm. So I don't know. He was still trying to also figure it out, but he was basically like, it's not. They're not gonna. It sounded like from how he understood it is it was something they weren't going to require for this specific thing, but then that would obviously apply for anything you wanted to SBR. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. It doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could see, again, just speculating here, that they're going to require an FFL to become the manufacturer of the item, so they would inscribe their information on there potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'll have to find out more about that. I might have, if I can find something, I'll have it in the description for this episode, that if you want to find out more about that. So again, take that with a big old giant pinch of salt, because I'm not sure, and it could be hearsay. That's just coming from one of our local stores here, and it's his own interpretation. So I'll try to find out more about that and have it in the comments below. But that part was kind of interesting. Again, I think we already said it, but the $200 tax stamp is waived for now, and I think this has been somewhat unclear as well as far as how long it's waived for. But from what I understood, it was from the publishing date. Yes. Or the archival date, till 120 days after.
Correct.
So,
the other interesting factor that I kind of came across when I dug up, and again, this is my understanding, as a lot of this is still just up for interpretation and not written very well. If you're going to Form 1, which is become the manufacturer of a short-barreled rifle, take your brace off and put on a stock, all that jazz, actually do the paperwork. Yes, the $200 is waived for the tax stamp. However, if you're going to fill it out under a trust or a corporation rather than an individual, you have to show proof that your trust or corporation owned it before the date that this went into effect. So if you bought it just as an individual, which most people don't put non-NFA items on their trust. You can, but most people haven't because it's not necessary, at least here in Alaska. Not sure about all other states that get kind of goofy. So if that's the case, that you bought it as your individual, it's not under your trust, but you want to add it to your trust, they are not going to waive the $200 for that.
Really?
Yes, you can do it as an individual.
So that would be going through like the local law enforcement route, like the standard route where you got to do the weird interview and all that stupid stuff.
No.
No?
No. I've never had to do an interview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think you need... Yeah, I'm not sure what What interview you're talking about?
So with not going the trust route, there's parts where you've had to
You still
submit
need
all your stuff to local law enforcement.
Yeah,
all that stupid
even
stuff.
with the trust, you still need the chief law enforcement sign off.
Okay.
But that is not like an interview or anything. It's actually not even optional, at least in Alaska, for them to sign off or not. Like, you are not asking permission. You're telling them, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never had to do an interview. They sign it and off I go.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, some states, they actually like bring you
really?
in and interview you and ask you
dang.
why you need it and all that stuff. So, but Alaska's pretty chill with a lot of this.
Right.
So, yeah. Cool. So basically, we kind of start getting into, if you do want to comply, how are you supposed to comply? Well, there's a few ways you can do that. You can modify the firearm to fall outside of NFA regulations. So basically, put an upper on it or a barrel on your upper that is over 16 inches or at least 16 inches. That would also include like pinning and welding. So you could, if you pin and weld a muzzle device on a barrel that's shorter than 16 inches, they now, because I'm using air quotes here, permanently affixed,
Right.
the muzzle device is then included in the length of your barrel.
Right.
So
your 14.5s, 13.9s,
yep,
13.7s,
on,
potentially, depending on your muzzle device.
if you got an absolute lengther of a muzzle device. Yeah. So you can also, this is a pretty cool option. You can also remove and destroy your brace. Just destroy it. I'm not sure how, but somehow. This might be my favorite option, and I'm being sarcastic. I want to put that out there. You can surrender the firearm to the ATF, which is like, what in the world is going on? What in the...
Dude, people do it, though.
I know.
That's what's crazy.
Stop doing that. That's the stupidest thing you can do. That is such a weird, like... I don't know. It's for your safety. And you just like turn in your gun like an idiot. You can also destroy the firearm in its entirety. So,
which is even better.
But like, I don't know.
That's what I did with all my guns.
Which is yeah. Which is crazy because it's like it's a brace. You can just slide it off. Well, I guess when you start breaking down the whole buffer tube part, that's when it gets weird,
Right.
So all these options, again, modify the firearm to fall outside of NFA regulations, register the firearm as an SBR, remove and destroy the brace, surrender the firearm to the ATF, or destroy the firearm in its entirety, have to be done within the 120 days or the 60 days if it's a new firearm. So, stupid. Like you mentioned before, there's an estimated 10 to 40 million braces in circulation, and you have to assume that most of those are or have been installed on firearms.
Right.
So, and this is the thing too. It's not just ARs. I mean, it's shotguns, AKs. Rifles, shotguns. Yep. It's a bunch of things that. Well, not rifles, pistols, technically, but.
Well, I've actually seen them on actual rifles too.
Yeah,
they have some short. One that comes to mind is Christensen Arms makes their MPR in a little tiny shorty package. It's got a little pistol brace on it.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like a
bolt action?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's because it still technically was built as a pistol.
Yeah.
So, and that's where it gets weird too, because they mention the whole part about how it was manufactured, like what the intentions of it were. And if a manufacturer actually builds that as a pistol,
right,
it's weird. It's like, how does
does
that work?
one outweigh the other? Does one rule outweigh the other?
Well, the thing
just
is they've banned those braces specifically. So it's like, if it's got a brace on it, it's illegal regardless.
Similarly designed firearms or whatever they said.
It's so weird. Okay, I just actually got sent this. So I texted the store I was talking about, and he just sent me this. If the SBR equipped with a stabilizing brace is registered within the 120-day tax forbearance period, The possessor is allowed to adopt the markings on the firearm. The maker's marking exception is only applicable to firearms that are registered pursuant to the final rule. If the firearm is a personally made firearm, the possessor must mark in accordance with all the prior Form 1 requirements, which is the 27 CFR 478.92 and 479.102 prior to submitting the E-Form 1.
Okay. So if it's something you put together off a receiver, then yes, you're still going to have to engrave it. But if you purchased it as a, in quotes, pistol from the manufacturer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what it is.
Yep. So
because
that answers our question.
Your
we just
lower
had.
is probably sold. It's probably marked as a handgun.
Right.
In that transfer process, as opposed to just a lower receiver, which is going to be marked as an other.
Yep.
So is it just for that?
It's just for that.
Okay.
That makes more sense in my mind.
Yeah, I think because he sent me a screenshot of the actual ATF wording, which is what I just read. But he's interpreting it, I think, a little more broad stroking. So yeah, it does sound like that's in reference to just if the SBR equipped with a stabilizing brace is registered, the maker's marking exception is only applicable to firearms that are registered pursuant to the final rule. Huh. Let's get our attorney on the horn. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
It's so
Is
stupid.
this Pawn Stars right now? Let me call my guy.
Yeah. Can he wait around for about 20 minutes? No. Yeah, that's weird. So that's a whole other monkey wrench that's been thrown in there.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't know. I'll have that in the bottom for people to reference, kind of like going back to what I mentioned. That's very strange. So there's a lot of the bottom line with this is that a lot of this is just so haphazardly being figured out. Like,
absolutely,
they're just throwing stuff around.
Well, especially with such a short time to kind of get everything squared away if you were gonna, comply.
Yeah,
it's like 120 days isn't that long.
Which, let's get into that. So you've got an estimated 10 to 40 million braces in circulation. So basically, you've got two options in general. You can either comply or not.
Right.
So let's get into that. Should you comply? Let's start with complying. So obviously, to comply, we listed the things. What are the benefits to complying and versus not, and why do we think we should do one or the other?
Well, your benefits are that you're not going to end up a felon.
Okay.
Potentially. I'll throw in potentially because
right.
I think you're not going to turn into a felon regardless. But
yeah, and that might sound obvious, but the reason that I'm wording it the way I am is because, again, there's estimated, and a lot of people think it's more, 10 to 40 million braces. That's
I'm just saying
unenforceable.
If it all goes as well as they say, they act like it will go.
Yeah.
You'll have your gun legally. You'll be able to throw a stock on it at that point.
Yep.
Because technically it's now an NFA item, so then you can actually have a real SBR.
Right.
So screw that freaking brace. You get a $200 tax stamp for free.
Right.
Because they're not going to know. Oh, you have to keep the brace on. No, you don't.
No.
Throw an actual stock on.
Right.
Yeah.
Then the benefit there.
And then you're not going to get hit with the $250,000 fine as well, which is also a benefit.
And 10 years in jail.
Yeah, 10 years in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I said the felon, but I forgot. Yeah, 10 years in jail.
Yeah, those are that's the charges the ATF has listed. So you become a felon, you get charged with a $250 or $250,000 fine, and then you could spend 10 years in prison,
which would only turn into 3 or 4.
Yeah. Well, that's
the maximum.
Yeah, that's a standard answer for gun laws.
Right.
That's just sweeping across the board. So
it's just falling into.
It's still a long time though.
Yeah, absolutely. I spend enough. Yeah. I work in a prison, so
yeah, I was gonna say
I spend enough time in jail.
Clarification's needed, probably. Were you about to say something?
No. I was gonna clarify my my comment there.
Okay. Yeah, I spent enough time in jail. Yeah, so So yeah, basically you could take advantage of this opportunity and throw some free tax stamps in there. But I mean, I don't think, I think a lot of, I mean, the wait time is going to become exorbitant. I mean, even if you're not.
Well, we were just saying the pros of it.
Right.
I haven't gotten to the pros of not
Oh,
complying.
I know. Yeah.
There's going to be way more pros to not complying from me.
Okay, what are they? What do you think?
Well, for one, you're not going to be on a list. For
Yep.
two, you can still, depends on where you live. I'm not going to be traveling to Canada with one, but if you live in any other state, you can still travel with it without, I mean, you're already breaking the law, so might as well just keep it going. There's a bunch.
This is not legal.
No, it's not legal
This is not
advice,
legal
but-
advice.
But,
This is
I mean,
just
it's
our-
already a breach of the Second Amendment anyway,
Yeah.
so... Like, what's the difference? Because, there's too many what-ifs on the 120 days for me to even think about. Like, if I don't have an SBR, so we'll just go ahead and get that out there so I don't get my door kicked in, once this podcast releases. But all my ARs are 16 inches or longer, so whatever. But if I did have one, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
100%. I'm not doing it. Because, there's just no clarification on that 120 days. That's, the weirdest thing to me. What am I doing when I'm waiting for my Form 1 to get approved? Am I having to bring my gun into an FFL and have them hold on to it until it's approved? Because if that's the case, that's ridiculous.
Currently in the past, no.
So what do you mean?
So I do have SBRs, filled out Form 1s for those, and they're in your possession the whole time.
Yeah, but what did you do? Is it... Did you have a stock on it the whole time? Or?
No, I had a pistol brace.
Yeah,
at the time.
so that would be considered an SBR, though, already.
So that's where it gets weird because they say even you can't even possess. You can possess the pistol braces until the 120 for the
Oh, I see what
120
you're saying.
days.
So after,
So then, even just having a pistol brace in your possession is intent to build.
right? No, I see that.
So
Yeah.
that's where it gets weird. And I guess you could argue that with the stock too for before, but with before you could throw a pistol brace on it. That was
Right.
kind of the
That
Or
was
just
the-
run the buffer tube. But now it's you can't even run the buffer tube.
In my
Yeah.
case, it's an MCX, so I don't have a buffer tube, but there's nothing attached on the rear.
aren't you
knob.
fancy?
Aren't I fancy? Yeah, I found the unicorn.
This
man.
episode is sponsored by Sig Sauer. No, it's not. No. Yeah, so that's where it gets really strange. And there's a lot of questions that aren't being answered, and that's one of the biggest ones I've seen. That's what you just brought
Yeah,
up.
that one is so weird to me that I would just be I just wouldn't take a chance with it, is my thing.
Yeah.
I'm not taking a chance at just, for one, them oh, well, we now know where everyone's at, so we can just turn all these people into felons, which I doubt they would do, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I guarantee they have the parts because they already submitted the paperwork.
Well, and that's the thing. You're showing compliance. I mean, you're doing what they asked, so at that point, right? If you have
Yeah.
it, you filled out the paperwork.
And I'm not
You're
saying
trying to, in quotes, be the good citizen.
Right.
I'm not saying you need to agree with me. I'm just saying what I would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I just, I don't know. I'm not going to say that either. I was just going to say, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I would just have a 14.5 pin and welded, honestly, because it's a better AR. So,
Yeah.
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 if you're trying to go short, I mean, it just sucks for guys that have stuff that's short. I feel bad for them because it's a tough
Yeah.
place to be in. I had an I had a pistol brace AR, but I already sold that thing. So
It's not your problem
Yep.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yo.
Yeah, and you sold it not
no, I sold it.
not because of this. You
I
sold
just
it
sold it
just
because it was just useless to me.
time to spend money on other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's super weird. I mean, I've got uppers that are, I mean, they're not mounted to any lowers right now, so it doesn't really matter. But they are definitely, they're definitely not going to be allowed unless I Form 1 them. So I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's a super weird situation.
And then what was what'd you say again with the trust? So you had to have the trust already in place prior to that, or you had to have the gun in the trust?
You had to have, if you're going to Form 1 it under your trust, you have to have proof that it was already in your trust prior to this ruling. So if you had all these guns in your possession, but they're not listed under your trust, you can't file your Form 1 as your trust and have the $200 waived.
So yeah, dude, that just, and why would you ever put any NFA items not in a trust?
Non-NFA items in a trust?
Well, no. Why would you put? Well, no. I mean, that's maybe smart to do, but I don't know. I don't do it. So,
Yeah. It's
I'm
not
saying
common, but you can.
I'm just saying, like, if you have NFA items,
Why would they not be in a trust?
why
is
would
what
you
he's
not
saying.
put them in a trust?
Oh, right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because trust.
Minor in a trust.
Because you don't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to. You don't
Way
want to pass
smarter.
it down to your family.
Yeah,
You're just being
absolutely.
selfish or something.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I think the unspoken point you're making is you wouldn't.
Yeah. So,
Like with both options,
so
like you
Yeah.
you should
I see what you're saying now.
it's highly recommended that you use the trust route
Right.
when you're going to do anything NFA related,
Right.
because you can have trustees. So if you die or something happens to you, or you go to jail or something, you have other people. You don't just lose those items.
Right.
Your trust owns them, and you manage the trust.
Right.
And then you can assign trustees who are other people in the trust that can use those items as well, or be in possession of those items.
Right.
And it's more complicated than that. And you might be able to speak to that more since you have an operating trust, but ultimately that's the best way to do it. Doing
is.
it the other
Yep.
way, then just like what happens if you were to die or any of those other things, the state would just take possession, or the government or whatever
Right.
will just take possession of your items, because you were the owner and that it stopped at you,
Right.
and there's no trust to then manage your property. So, yeah, that's why it's good to have a trust in general, because you can do a lot more than just. I mean, there's gun specific trusts, but trusts in general are worth
Right.
looking into. Just a little side note, but you can put your house in them and stuff like that, but it has to be paid off. But yeah,
Yep.
just a little side
we're
note.
going down a weird rabbit trail.
Yeah,
Hey,
none of
in
the
real
trusts are sick.
estate.
So anything else on anything else we want to say about compliance versus non-compliance? I know that's been. I don't really want to breeze over it, just because that's been the biggest conversation piece in the kind of the community, is like the gun community as a whole is.
I don't know. I gave my opinion. What does everyone else think? I just feel like I'm the only one that talked on that.
I mean, mine's kind of on both ends of the spectrum, I guess. So if you have had a firearm with a pistol brace on it, and you have had intentions of doing the Form 1 or
Yeah.
depending on what state you're in, this is a free $200 check from the government.
Right.
Like, why not take advantage of it?
Yeah,
If you did not have intentions of doing it or can't because of where you live, then it's the other kind of end of the spectrum,
yeah,
So I kind of have a little bit of on both sides, right?
yeah. I actually like that a lot. Yeah,
And,
Yeah, that's reasonable thinking.
I
Yeah.
actually agree with that.
I just always think toward the. I don't know. I always lean more toward the fact that most people aren't trying to do that, but that's because, I mean, that's the main reason people got pistol braces in the first place. It was either a placeholder, like what you're saying, but most people it was just so that way they could have
just avoid it altogether.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I agree with you on that, Ed. Like, if you're planning on doing it, you might as well just do it now. Like,
Right.
Here's the perfect time. I mean, yeah,
Right.
you're going to be waiting a long time.
Right. Yeah. If you didn't want to do it, I mean, it's a process, right? Like, I held off doing it for a long time just because it's a process. It's annoying. There's a lot of paperwork, the wait time, just a whole bunch of ridiculous stuff I just didn't want to be part of. And finally, I bit the bullet and did it. Got a few of them. But yeah, now's your opportunity. $200 check from the government, free.
yeah,
At least takes one of those things out, you know. You
right.
still got to pay for your fingerprints and get a photo, passport photo, and other stuff to turn in with your paperwork, but that's not much.
Yeah. Yeah. That's honestly, it makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. I mean, my opinion would probably just echo yours, Ed. I agree with that. But yeah, I would, my first instinct was to not comply. And I don't know if I would. It just depends on your situation.
You know,
I've kind of been frustrated, actually, just kind of on that specifically, about there's people that are like really hard on one side and really hard on the other, And I think it's a very individual decision. But I think my biggest kind of harkening back to what we said earlier, like either decision you make shouldn't just be made to move on and just to pretend like this never happened. Like we need to make noise about this.
Right.
That's kind of been my biggest concern about a lot of more about the do not comply crowd. That just keeps getting thrown around. Like, no, like people are like, nope, nope, not going to comply. I'm just putting a stock on it. That's awesome because I think that open defiance kind of sends a message of like, have fun enforcing all these people that now just threw stocks on their guns. But at the same time, it's like, how did we get here? And how do we prevent this erosion from continuing? Because it's going to continue. This is
just step one.
This is and this is a massive step that they took.
And how many other things are going to come about because of this and use this as a stepping stone?
They're already working on other stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All the time.
It sets a dangerous precedence because now there's all this language that has been used in a ruling.
Even alone the fact that the ATF is making their own laws. Which is, we don't even have to go there yet.
They can basically bench legislate, which is crazy.
Right.
It's the only department that can do that without any kind of oversight, which is completely obscene. Another thing that you need to reference if you're writing your representatives, how they have there's no oversight. They can operate without a director even. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's like, who's making these decisions? Who? That's a big question I have. And it's crazy. So yeah, ultimately I think either one, really consider the pros and cons. But I think if either decision is made without intentional effort to have uproar about this and contact your representatives, then you're wrong, is my opinion. But, yeah. So, why was this whole thing done? Well, you probably already know the answer to this question. It's to enhance public safety was literally what they said. Actually, I think I have it here. It's so funny how they word it. So typical. This rule further enhances public safety by reducing the further proliferation and criminal use of firearms with attached stabilizing braces. Because
gangsters have stabilizing braces on their guns instead of normal stocks, right? They just have illegal SBRs, right? Let's just be honest here.
And what's really funny about that is I did some homework here, and I actually went to the FBI crime statistics and a couple other places, went to a couple studies, and there are no clear statistics at all that show any evidence of braces or even NFA registered weapons being used in crimes.
Right.
So yeah, illegal ones that aren't registered.
Right.
But people who have registered NFA weapons.
Right.
Or people who have put braces on their guns. There's no crime statistics of them actually being used.
And they exist. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah.
I don't think it happens very often. Right. In the last 20 years or something, I can pick out 2 instances that I recall being headline news where a guy used a suppressor in a shooting. There's one guy in a sniper in, where's that, DC somewhere?
But were they NFA registered?
I assume.
Okay.
I mean,
I didn't think they were.
Maybe not. I guess I don't know the answer to that, but and then that one guy in Virginia, whatever that was, 5 or 10 years ago. So
yeah. So it's completely, it's honestly just a fake statement. It's a feel good fake, just basic, just whatever statement. It's a complete made up, just throw something that sounds good in there.
I'm here with the government. I'm here to help. Yeah. I'm here to make you safe. Yeah.
Yeah. This is for your best interest. Yeah. So we keep talking about the NFA and everything. So we're going to actually break it down a little bit. I think it's important to understand a little bit of its history. This will better inform you on how to talk with your legislators or with your representatives.
And be informed when you're talking to them. Don't just be that guy that's just rambling on and not really having a point or whatnot. Make it sound professional. Know your information, because he or she probably doesn't. To be honest,
they don't.
So yeah, know what you're talking about.
The more often than not, even guys that you've got representatives out there that are quote unquote allies of Second Amendment rights and stuff, and even them usually they have no idea what they're talking about.
Right.
And it's pretty like obvious. There's a few good ones that get learned up, but even them, more often than not, it's because someone like us or someone like you educated them and showed them how it actually is. And so that's we honestly have a lot of say in what goes on. I think people just use that as an excuse to not use it.
Well, they allow the government to do government things.
Yeah. Yep. So the NFA, it's the National Firearms Act. It was established in 1934, so a long time ago. And the main goal was to actually prohibit machine guns, handguns, and modified weapons from being used by criminals, which of course is a pretty vague thing to say. But at that time, there was definitely a lot of gang activity, especially like the mafia was just at, I think, pretty close to being full strength at that time. Like after World War II, a lot of gang strength was developed, and they were, there's a lot of actually pretty cool history there.
Yeah.
So the government in the, it actually wasn't just that. It was also, there was a lot of moonshining and stuff like that was going on. So like prohibition. And all that was also directly influencing a lot of this. And actually, it's really funny. The IRS was chasing down moonshiners.
Oh, weird! Didn't the IRS just try to hire 87,000 more agents?
They got shut down though.
They did,
which is great.
Thankfully,
nice thing that happened.
But maybe there's a connection there.
Yeah,
87,000 more agents, 40 million braces. I don't know. Maybe they're planning ahead.
Oh, weird. I didn't think about that. Crazy.
History repeats itself, people.
It's kind of crazy, actually. I didn't draw that conclusion.
I didn't until just now.
Nice. So they basically were going to try to completely ban a lot of these things. Thankfully, our Constitution and the Second Amendment specifically made that pretty much impossible. So that's where your $200 tax stamp comes from. At that time, $200 was a huge amount of money.
Cost prohibitive.
Yep. It was a cost prohibitive measure to basically make it impossible to own specific firearms. And the thing is handguns was included in this, and that's where keep that in mind, because that's where it's important moving forward to understand that lobbyists at the time actually had handguns removed from the NFA. So it was it was basically completely eliminating the ability to defend yourself. Again, it harkened back to the Second Amendment, and lobbyists argued that we can't regulate handguns in this. Common people should be able to get handguns. They can't afford them now because of this tax stamp. Thankfully, they didn't put any writing into the tax stamp amount that had any or
inflation changes.
Yep. So that's why it's still $200 to this day. If it did, I'm sure it would be like
thousands.
Like 10 grand or something.
And I think they've talked about it. I've heard that brought up in the past. So they've talked about increasing the cost because it has not increased all these years.
Yeah.
But something just kind of struck on me. It's written down here in the notes. I just wanted to say and have people think about for a second. The Constitution made it impossible to physically prohibit these things. So the ATF implemented a cost prohibitive tax.
Yep.
Let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah. That can be done easily at any time. And that's the thing too. I mean, it could be phase 2 to this.
Yep.
Well, let's get everybody to register these guns and make that just common practice. And then let's go ahead and, add in this tax of some kind. Also, there are very easy ways to make it a reoccurring tax. So they could waive this tax now, but they could make it an annual tax that you have to pay. I
still hear that to this day, that people that aren't familiar with the system and how it operates. I get that question a lot when I'm talking to people about my stuff. It's, do you have to pay that every year?
Yeah.
No, it's a lifetime.
Yep. But that could change.
Good.
So, it's kind of weird. So again, handguns were removed due to successful lobbying. So why were short barrel rifles and short barrel shotguns even included? Well, it was pretty much just to get rid of a loophole. So they foresaw that, to get around the whole, like when it was originally designed with handguns in mind, that was the main firearm they were trying to prohibit, was handguns specifically. Which if you look at statistics, you want to get into like what are used in crimes, handguns just demolish everything else when it comes to like firearm types. Hammers and stuff are used a lot more than firearms actually, but do with that what you will.
Yeah.
But
vehicles.
Fists and feet, I think, kill more people than anything else. But which is also kind of crazy to think about. But you got to pay tax stamp on these hands. No, but
got to register these things.
So they came up with the SBR, or short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun thing, because they were worried that if they prohibited handguns, guys would simply just modify or saw off their shotguns and rifles to make a more concealable platform. So that was to close that loophole to get around handguns. So it wasn't even made because there was any crazy stuff going on with short barrel rifles or short barrel shotguns. It was made to close a loophole because they were going to prohibit handguns. But then handguns got removed from the NFA.
Yeah.
So it's like you still have this weird loophole law that was never built with any intention of prohibiting quote unquote crime with those guns, because there wasn't any.
Yeah.
It was just to keep people from being able to make a more concealable weapon since they could no longer carry handguns.
Yeah, that's the weirdest part about it, like to me, was it wasn't even designed for that purpose.
No. It's just literally to make it harder to make a concealable platform, since you weren't going to be allowed to carry handguns anymore. But you can still carry handguns because the lobbyists were like, no, this is completely, this is too far, basically, is what happened. I wish they would have pushed a little harder into other areas, but
well, I think too,
maybe we can.
It just kind of struck me as a side note, we're falling victim to the same things the ATF is doing. We haven't officially, on the record, defined what a short-barreled rifle or short-barreled shotgun is, I don't think. And there may be people that aren't aware of the requirements of that that are listening. Bad assumption on our part, I guess.
Yeah.
So a short-barreled rifle is anything that is, the barrel is shorter than 16 inches.
Yep.
And I think you kind of touched on earlier, a permanently attached item on the end of the barrel counts as that barrel length.
Yep.
And then how you actually find that barrel length is you have to stick something down your barrel from the muzzle until it contacts the face of the bolt.
Yep.
And then that's how you measure that. So it's not, my barrel is this long, so I'm good to go. There could be some tolerance issues. So, and then on a shotgun, oddly enough, it's 18 inches, and I think you might get into that here.
Yeah, which
later,
that's actually hilarious.
Yeah. But yes, that's what it is. So anything shorter than 16 inches overall length of the barrel.
Yeah.
I don't know if I define that spur of the moment well enough.
No, that's
No,
good.
that's good.
That's it. Yeah. And pretty much, like you said, anything shorter than that is going to fall into, it's going to now become a pistol or a rifle, depending on what, which now pretty much anything, any modern carbine of any kind is going to pretty much just be a rifle still because of how this is written.
Right. You can permanently attach suppressors also.
You can, yep.
Yeah. I don't know that it's the best idea.
Yeah.
If you're only going to buy one and it's only going to be on that rifle, sure, send it. But I find it pretty convenient that I can move them from rifle to rifle.
Right. I think your biggest, I remember there was a time period where that was becoming pretty popular.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago it was kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
Gemtech actually, and there may be more now, but I think Gemtech actually states in their product description it's got a hole pre-drilled in it for pinning and welding, if that's your thing.
Okay. Yeah, and really the only benefit I see of doing that would be you only have to do one tax stamp.
Right.
Because it's one NFA item at that point. Yeah.
Generally, it's not going to be a short-barreled rifle anymore because most likely it will exceed the 16-inch length.
Yep.
So that's an option out there, people.
Yeah. I agree with you, though. I think being able to use your suppressor like a tool and not a permanently fixed implement, I think is a lot better. So a little bit more history on the NFA. This is another change that happened. And I bring up these changes like the handguns being removed and stuff like that because it's important to understand that this absolutely can be and has been changed.
It works
the
and it happens.
Yep. In fact, there was a very common 22 long rifle caliber rifles that were being manufactured, and they were commonly under 18 inches because, again, we're talking about 22. So shorter barrels or super long barrel starts to, or can, right. Especially then, would prohibit the flight of the bullet. Yep. So this manufacturer asked the ATF, like, hey, can you basically excuse our firearms that we've been building forever and continue to build and want to sell? It's affecting our business, and we've been accidentally selling these illegally, and a lot of people own these now. And they were like, oh, okay, well, yeah, these aren't going to be used in any crimes because it's 22, so they're just for like hunting and whatnot. So yeah, we'll make an exception. So they made an exception for certain calibers and certain types of guns that were rifles within the NFA requirements. Well, then a bigger oops happened.
Right. This is classic.
1968. The U.S. government, so this was after World War II, obviously you had thousands and thousands of M1 carbines that were used in the war, and the government surplused them and then sold them. So make some money back and also kind of arm the populace, kind of like cool little programs that you could be a part of back then, and you could buy them for like $10 or whatever it was. It was like super cheap.
I was born the wrong time.
The problem was M1 carbines had shorter than an 18-inch barrel. So the U.S. government basically accidentally sold thousands and thousands of M1 carbines into, just put them into circulation. Sold them and then they were into circulation. So because of that, they were like, oh, crap, we screwed up. We just basically incriminated our own populace. So they just decided, well, let's just change all rifles in the NFA from 18 to 16 inches for barrel length. So that's how we have our 16-inch barrel length now. So as you can hear, it's super arbitrary, and it's just kind of like, we'll make it work for whatever our agenda is at the time.
So almost like they sold 40 million stocks into circulation, approximately.
Yep.
And now they've found out or determined them to be illegal, and they just, it's okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Crazy.
Kind of just like that M1 carbine story.
Yep.
Weird.
So that's a little bit of history for you on the National Firearms Act. So let's get into what we can do and what we should do. First and foremost, we need to absolutely use this opportunity. This is, I believe, an opportunity. A lot of people are viewing this in a negative light, and it is dumb. And obviously it's annoying and stupid and overreach. It's absolutely overreach of the highest degree, in my opinion. But this is a pretty good opportunity to contact your representatives and ask that SBRs, SBSs, so short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, and then any other weapon, AOW would fall into that a lot, pretty often, should just be completely removed from the NFA permanently. Just like has been done, there's historical precedence for this. It's not an uncommon thing. A lot of people that I've had this conversation with and brought this up to, they're like, oh, they'll never do that. Like, it's, once you lose a right, you never get it back. Mostly true, but this has been done several times. Right. We saw it with the handguns. We saw it again with certain calibered rifles. Oh, we'll make little weird exceptions. And then when the government made a big oopsie, they very conveniently said, we'll just change it to 16. So at this point, especially with the way modern firearms are put together, when you're talking about like AR pattern rifles and stuff and how modular they are, and again, pairing that with the very, very, very insignificant low crime rates that actually take place with these specific types of guns, even ARs in general, it's important to understand that too, like, are rarely used.
And then the subcategory of short-barreled or pistols used in the past.
Yep. With all that being said, we just should ask them to completely remove it. It would save millions of Americans from being incriminated and made felons basically overnight, over a few nights, over 120 nights. It would also save a lot of money, would save a lot of taxpayer dollars, because if they really want to enforce this, they're going to have to hire a bunch of people to do so. Which maybe they already lost their plan to do that.
Yeah.
It's going to save countless time and resources from the government for the ATF being tied up in just processing forms.
Right. They
can actually do their freaking job.
They don't make money on this. $200 a person.
Yeah.
I mean, that probably doesn't even cover the wages for the NICS examiners that process these things.
Oh, and they take forever.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the wait time right now? Like for a standard form, I think it's 8 months, roughly.
Yeah, for the Form 4s. I don't know, it's kind of weird now with the e-file.
E-file is
definitely not the 90 days they told us.
Yeah. No, it's still months.
Yeah.
You know? But the ATF, I mean, I would love to just abolish the ATF altogether, but we got to take this, I think we got to play the baby step game.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what I've learned being involved in like local politics and trying to get changes to happen is sometimes you approach this like, do this and this, this needs to happen, and you get met with like, this guy's crazy and a lot of opposition. Yep. But if you ease into it and you start to build relationships with people and start to explain your side, and you use tact and reason and intellect and actually have conversations with people, it's amazing how far you can get and how much change you can actually make. And I think it's very reasonable. I mean, it's obvious. It's like at this point, it is so obvious and reasonable. If we're going to if this one device that was circumventing this whole arbitrary rule anyways is the problem, then we need to just make this type of weapon just not beholden to the NFA anymore. Not a part of the NFA. It needs to be removed. That's a simple fix. It's going to save a lot of trouble. It's going to save our taxpayers a lot of money, save our government a lot of money. And again, I want to point in on this again. I'm not a fan of the ATF, but they were originally, their job is to really, right now, I think one of their more realistic jobs should be dealing with cartels and dealing with like black market, gun sales and stuff like that.
ATF, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Yep.
What a weird mix.
Yeah, super weird. Literally just designed right around the time of the Prohibition. And
dude, if we just move all those guys to the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency.
Yeah.
Just get rid of the firearms part.
Which the DEA is also weird in its own ways.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think the ATF should only have to like go into a crazy machine that sends you back into time and you like stop ships from blowing up underneath bridges.
What?
Dude, deja vu, dude.
Oh, was he ATF?
Yeah, he's ATF.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that movie, dude. It was Denzel, wasn't it?
Dude, that was a hype for ATF, dude. That's 100% what that movie was all about.
Dude, just propaganda.
Yeah, a little
That's
propaganda.
crazy.
They give him the propaganda measure.
You said deja vu, and I did not immediately go to the movie, so I was still really lost.
Denzel.
And then you said, "Oh, Denzel." I was like, "Okay, yep, I know what's going on now."
Oh my goodness,
that's their only job.
That is so random. Yeah. So how do you reach out to your representative? I'm gonna have links below. If you are, whoa, what did I just say?
If you are,
yeah. If you're a longtime listener of this podcast, then you should know by now because we spend a lot of time hitting this. But I get really frustrated. The amount of people I have conversations with that are still like, it's not going to do anything, or they're like, yeah, I just don't even know how to email I'm like, dude, how have we made it this far? How are you this involved and taking all this serious? And I know there's a perspective of, there's a huge group of people that, even just within our audience that listen to our podcast for some of the concepts and tips and training and these things that we are way more passionate about doing. I don't enjoy doing this podcast. I don't have fun coming in here and talking about this.
This is necessary.
But this is the fight right now.
Yeah,
this is the Minutemen fight.
Yep.
Got to be ready at a moment's notice. Right now, it's a political fight. We're in a political arena. We are not fighting anybody right now. We could, and obviously these are things that take a long time to prepare for, but this is the fight. This fight's here right now.
Right. And if we can stop it now before it gets to whatever's next, I mean, that's better. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Don't be one of these guys that wants the Civil War.
Absolutely. Right.
You're an idiot. I'm going to call you out right now. War is not cool.
No.
There's nothing cool about it. And if you're someone that loves people and you've got a family and you've got kids, you do not want war at your doorstep. And I'm not saying that this one thing is going to necessarily cause a war, but what I am saying is that it's things like this that stack up over time that regulate you into oblivion.
It's also the thing that keeps it available for your kids, because I mean, we don't know what this world's going to turn into. It could be just hunky-dory all the way till me and you die, but by the time our kids are our age, it's like things could be getting way more froggy, and it's like, man, they should have everything that we have and more. So
yeah,
Yep.
I'm going to leave this world better than I found it, that whole concept.
Yeah.
Especially for my kids. That's a lot of people's why of like why they do the things we do, why we practice these disciplines. It's to protect our family and our kids, or protect our community, or protect ourselves if you're just a solo guy. That's cool, but you've got to get involved. And it just should be something that is I know it can be intimidating and it can be a lot of work and it's not fun. There's nothing fun about it. Do you know how many city council meetings I've had to go to? It's not fun. It's dumb, but it's necessary. And it's actually easy to do, to carve in some time, budget some time. And with this right here, I mean, this is just the beginning. I mean, I can't stress that enough. I mean, we've been seeing this kind of stuff go on forever. I mean, for you young guys out there, in the 90s, we had an assault weapons ban. That's another thing I'd like to bring up. And it got repealed. It got removed. You could not own any of the weapons we own now. That's why Mini 14s are still a thing. Because you couldn't have an AR-15. You had to buy this weird Ruger Mini 14.
The old pre-ban Colts.
Yeah. And SKSs.
Yeah.
Dude, SKSs were everywhere.
Yep.
They still are because of the was it 1994 assault weapons ban?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't remember the year.
Yeah,
but
it
that
was
sounds
in the
right.
90s.
Because it was Clinton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 94 would be about right. Sounds right in my head.
Yep. So this stuff is going to be a constant effort to remove as much firepower from the American public as possible. Because, time for the tinfoil hat. Donning my tinfoil hat, but stand by. The One World Order. Whoa, dude. You start looking at the One World Order. Oh, no. Here we go.
Lizard people are next.
Yep. Look at it. It's a problem. No, but seriously, there are people out there that want to control everything, and they want to eat up all the power. Dude, this is...
Yep.
I feel like
we're going there.
But seriously, it's not hard to look around. I think more people are awake to this now than ever before. I know I definitely am. I've never been a big conspiracy guy that's all getting focused on stuff, and I'm still not really, but there's been so much weird stuff that's happened over the last few years with COVID,
it's hard to,
and all
the
this
writing
stuff.
on the wall, man.
Yeah. And it's just in the open now. It's just
happening.
we do that stuff.
Yep.
Like Bohemian Grove and all this stuff. It's we do that, but it's just a good party out there. It's well, what's going on with why'd you sacrifice a fake child to this idol? Well, it's just, we're just having a good old time. Yeah, but why are all these world leaders and billionaires and bankers and senators and stuff out there? Well, it's just we're just out there just letting loose, a lot of stress. Why are you having orgies with each other? Well, just stop. You're talking about too much now. It's this is all stuff that's just been outed now. And it's that's just one tiny little window into it. There's weird stuff going on.
Yeah. And
you got guys like Klaus Schwab and all these weirdos that are you will have nothing and you will like it, or you will love it, or whatever he says. And it's this, we have to stand up and use regular voices of good, strong moral character. People that still believe in, well, I'll just say it straight up. People who still believe in Jesus, people who still believe in having a family and traditional, work hard, provide and be free. And these are things that I will continue to harp on. I don't know. It's frustrating. It's wake up, look at what's going on. Ed, you said it perfectly. The writing's been on the wall for a long time.
Yep.
And this is just one big, not even big, this is just one little notch in that direction towards, control. You can't control the world if you've got this giant country that has a lot of money and has tons of people who still are able to make their own choices and have their own guns to protect the choices they make.
Right.
And
a bunch of people that are very active in gaining knowledge and training, and
yeah, they're freaking out.
yeah,
That's why you used to see assault weapon ban proposals and stuff. And now they're like, oh, regular people shouldn't be able to have body armor. And, you're seeing all these weird laws crop up that have to do not necessarily with the guns, but more with like the gear associated with it.
Right.
yeah, it all goes back to control.
Yep.
I mean, because ultimately that's like that's the only thing it could be. Because I mean, if SBRs were only put into like being an NFA item just to dodge a loophole of people cutting off barrels and stuff, then that wasn't even the goal to begin with. Obviously, it wasn't because of crime. Now it's just because they're like, you know what, we don't want our government being overpowered by its citizens.
Yeah.
So
Yep. You just simply just can't control an armed populace. There's a reason why in history, yep, every single tyrannical government or communist rule that has risen to immense power has disarmed its populace first.
Yep.
Russia, Germany,
China,
Cuba, all these. Yeah, China. You want to get scared? Dig into China.
yeah,
They live in a modern world today where information is readily available, and the fact that they have that much control over their people and that much control over information is scary.
yep.
they're also running out of people.
Yeah, they're going to get desperate. Dude, weird stuff going on. Lots of reasons to be involved.
Lots of reason to put on a tinfoil hat.
I don't even think it's tinfoil hat anymore. I think it's a Velocity Systems hat.
Gotta upgrade.
No, I just wear that. I wear a Velocity Systems hat. That's why I said that. That wasn't like a weird connection to Velocity Systems. Velocity Systems is like, what do they mean? No. Yeah. Anything else to add on this? I mean, I'll just ramble on and saying the same thing over and over again about this and just turn more and more into Alex Jones as time goes on. So probably should stop.
I don't know. Do you got anything else, Ed?
Oh,
Any tidbits before we exit?
I mean, I guess I'm kind of on the same boat. Like, I feel like I could go forever on this, but at what point are we just repeating ourselves?
Right.
I mean, sum it up, right? We're going to comply or we're not. We're going to hope this gets overturned or it's not. Right. I guess that's one thing I'll bring up. And we kind of talked about it earlier. The bump stock thing, they got banned here not long ago. Yep. And that just got, fixed. So there's nothing that says this can't or won't be overturned or fixed even before the 120 days comes around, right?
Yeah.
Somebody on the legal level is going to challenge this.
For sure. Rightfully so.
Right. And absolutely, right? The more people getting involved in this, the quicker and easier that's going to be. So as you said, talk to your representatives, get them involved.
Educate them on it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have to.
They need it.
Yep, you're going to have to.
And I would say, look at this from, again, let's stick to this bigger perspective. I want to just reiterate that this could get changed, but again, this is a good opportunity to just get SBRs removed completely.
Yeah.
Don't be so attached to that, $60 brace that you bought that you're just trying to get braces legal again.
Right.
Braces from the beginning, they've been completely stupid. It's so dumb that putting that on a gun made it shoulderable all of a sudden instead of just a stock that was slightly manufactured different. If you didn't know already, braces were originally made for people with disabilities.
Yep.
So the original brace that came out was a strap that could strap to your forearm, and it was for people that lost limbs or had, severe disabilities where they couldn't use all their limbs. So that was the original intent, and then somebody was like, whoa, I can put this on my shoulder, and it feels like a stock. And then the ATF wasn't able to, there was no definition of how to shoot a pistol, and there still isn't.
Right.
All they've done now is say, oh, because of that device, it's not a pistol anymore, it's a rifle. Right. That's the change that's been made.
Well, and as a side note there, if you have questions about things the ATF does or is doing, don't write a letter to the ATF
yeah.
because that's how all this stuff happens.
Yeah.
Everybody that sent letters asking clarification on this or that, that's how these rulings kind of come about. So that's a good idea. We didn't think of that. Here, let's figure it out. We'll give you an answer.
I'm glad you said that. Don't ask for permission.
Yeah.
You don't need permission to exercise your freedoms.
Right.
You don't need it. Stop asking for it, because then they just come up with some new reason to take your freedom away. Oh, wait, it's free to do that? Yeah. We didn't think about that.
Right.
Yeah. Don't ask for permission to utilize your freedom. That doesn't make any sense. Stop writing people. That just...
Besides your
representatives. Yeah.
Yeah, true. But again, because the ATF can just legislate from the bench. Like, they can just freely, let's change that.
Yep.
And that's
no checks and balances or nothing. Yeah.
And that's a great place to start. Again, I think our main goal should be to completely abolish the ATF altogether. I don't know. I think all the using air quotes here, good things they do can be done by other departments that are already doing those things better anyways. Like you referenced the DEA.
Yeah. I mean, what is alcohol and tobacco? Right. It's a drug. You could just sum it up.
Yeah.
Right. Throw them in there.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird stuff. And you get all these departments running around and, I cover this.
I guess
I cover
that goes back to the prohibition you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, it just adds to, it's more government overreach. It's more compartmentalization, which bogs things down. That's why people are like, why can't we just deal with black market guns and drugs at the border? Well, it's too complicated.
Because the government's giving them to them. I mean,
yeah.
What?
Right.
We can't have them, but they're going to give them away to the criminals. Weird.
The Sinaloa cartel that got given all those guns.
It's weird.
Yeah. That's a conversation for a different time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we'll end with that. The cartel gets machine guns and short barrel rifles, and so does Ukraine, but you can't have them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe write your representative about that. But ultimately, we need to reach out, make some noise, and stop sitting back and just being so apathetic about this whole thing.
Yep. Be informative. Be respectful. Don't be that crazy guy, or they're just going to write you off.